Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, we are back with a new video. This is my first video on this channel, so thank you if you're here. You're probably my sister, my dad, my uncle, I don't know. But what is nice about having the first video, the first long form video on this channel, is the fact that I don't care about being judged by anybody, because I know there's not going to be 1,000 people watching this video. So this is amazing. So I can be totally myself. This is crazy. Like this is amazing. Now I'm talking to myself. Like this is what a life, right? Anyway, today I want to present to you some amazing games, some amazing people in the chess history. I love them so much. We have Bobby Fischer, a young Bobby Fischer, 15 years old, against Mikhail, 21 years old at the time, in 1958 in Yugoslavia, now Slovenia, just because of politics. So I just want to review all the games they played together. And they played about 13 games. So we're just gonna go and jump in on every game and explain it to you as I would like me to be explained a game if I was a beginner. You know, I'm not gonna explain all the GM's move and everything. Maybe some couple of tweaks here and there, but I just want to make it simple, right? I just want to make it simple so everyone can understand the basics of chess, and hopefully we have a great time. So Bobby plays e4, one of the most common opening for white, and Mikhail responds with e5, and the two knights developed, and this bishop right here, it's called the Rue Lopez, or you can say also the Spanish. Me gusta España, me gusta España mucho. Anyway, yeah. So we have this pawn move here. It's all the books. It's all like standard stuff. Obviously, when you're being attacked like this, you want to bring back your bishop, right? You don't want to lose it for nothing. So we have this knight develop here. We have castle, and now bishop e7. All right. You might say, why not Tal just take this pawn? You know, you can, but like there's variation where there's this, you go back and boom, like this. I mean, you gain back this pawn anyway. So as I said, there's many variation. They go for this line. It brings the rook on this file, the e file. It's always a good idea to do that, you know. Just giving your king some room. Maybe at some point you want to play h3 just to give your king some breathing room, you know, and preventing some back rank checkmate. Back rank is when you have a rook or a queen coming in your king's territory, and there's no piece left to defend, and it's mate. So you don't want to do that. So that's why you might do that in the future. Now we kick the bishop, really standard stuff, castle, and now that move comes. You know, you don't want that bishop here in the future. It's called prophylactic move. You know, your prophylactic move is when you plan ahead what your opponent might do. So in this case, it's like, I don't want the bishop to be in the way of my king, right? Now we have controlling the center. Always good to have this beautiful pawn structure, and everything is defended correctly. Here we got this move. It's pretty common in the Spanish that you just want to prepare that move here to strike in the center. So if you take, I mean, you're happy. You want the opponent to take you in chess. If you take your opponent, it's because it's a free piece, or you gain initiative on the board. But if you just take a piece and you don't have a clear plan, it might not be a good plan. This is what is going to separate you from, let's say, a low elo player to 1,000 elo player. They have a plan in mind. So what's your plan? All right, you're bringing back the... Tal is saying, I'm going to control all the squares here. I'm going to go on the queen side, maybe push some pawns in the future. I don't know. Now we have this pawn in the center. Until now, until that move here, everything was book move. Now Bobby Fischer plays takes. We have the knight centralizing. It's always good to have the knight in the central of the board. We have take, and then queen h5 on the right side of the board. So we have this queen here. Why? Because that pawn was under attack. You didn't see it, right? Me too. I just noticed. So, so the pawn is under attack. So you wanna save it. And here we have this knight jumping here, maybe going here on f1 or on f3. It's really common to just bring your pieces near your king and maybe launch an attack in the future, you know? So we have bishop here. Maybe exchanging the bishop. Is it a good thing? I don't know. As I said before, you want the opponent to take you and maybe not take right away. But if you take, maybe you want to take. Maybe you have a plan in mind, and that's... Anyway, so we have just the knight. The knight is doing his way here and planting itself next to the king. Always good to have the pieces there, as I talked about. Now we have a trade. Okay. Now you're saying, oh, but we have double pawns. Double pawns is usually not a good thing. But now it's supported. You know, if you push a pawn here, how are you going to break through? You know, I'm protecting everything. So it might not be a bad pawn after all. Now we have the knight here, because this knight and this queen is looking at that pawn. It's just protection. Okay, use protection, everybody. It's really important. I mean, if you're not too much into protection, then that's your life. Anyway, so we have this move. Now b4 here, as I said, just supporting every square. And we have the rook finally. So we have this bishop here inviting a trade, but Tal is saying, no, my friend, I don't want to exchange the pieces. And then you go back. Normally, you don't want to push the pawn in front of the king. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend this if you're a beginner, just because your king is really exposed, but they know what they're doing. So this queen here just prevent this from happening. Oh, we have the other one coming, maybe hiding on this side of the board. It's always important to have your rook on open file. If I can teach you something today, it's this. Put your rook on open file. You want to make your piece happy. That's what Magnus said in interview. He said, look at which one is happy or not. And if your rook is happy, then it's usually a good thing. So Magnus said that. Thank you, Magnus, for your kind words. And now we have this pawn push, which, you know, you want to create chaos. Maybe you want to take, you know, but that's just going to simplify the position and trading all the pieces. Maybe Bobby is like, he's a fierce player, only 15 years old, way less experienced than Mikhail, but he's like, no, I'm not taking that pawn. I continue with my plan. I put the knight here. And my idea is to plant the knight here and having long-term pressure on that pawn, you know? So if you do that, it's going to be really good for white. You know, you have this nice line for the bishop. This knight is coming. One of the idea here, you know, he thought about, if ever this is played, you know, pawn here to protect this square from the knight to jump here, look what happened. He calculated probably this, to sacrifice the knight. Now, if you take and you go here, then it's mate, right? This is amazing. But obviously, you can go here. If you bring the bishop, then you're going to defend the queen because this square was mate, right? If you don't do anything, you do that, for example. This is mate because they work beautifully together to touch the king and say hello and saying what you're going to do. There's no defender. You're left alone, buddy. You don't want to leave your kings alone, right? You want to give him some support. Just giving some support. So that didn't happen. Instead, that happened just to defend the king a little bit more, just to make sure everything is well protected. We have this knight here, but now you're saying, well, can you just fork the knight and the queen? No, because you can bring back the queen. And there's a pin, so you cannot take. It's impossible. It's illegal. Now we have this move played, and after that we have the king stepping out of danger. And now Bobby is like, okay, I'm gonna simplify the position, because if I'm back, like I don't know what's gonna happen. So let's trade. Let's give up, you know, the knight, and I'm gonna take your queen. But right now it looks like black is really good. The king is in the middle, ready, like covering a lot of squares, ready to push the pawns. Obviously you take that bishop, because otherwise you're just take the bishop. And yeah, we have take here, take. Now we have double pawns, and for some reason double pawn doesn't look so good here. I mean, if a rook infiltrate and takes all the pawns, like, what are you gonna do? You need these pawns. The rook lining up here, maybe being ready to grab some pawn. We have bishop back, the rook is coming, and now all the pawns are falling, you know. But I'm giving you a check. If you don't move the knight, obviously I'm just gonna take the knight for free. So you have to move it, right? If you try to defend this knight like this, I have bad news, because this and this, you sacrifice the rook, and after you take, I can just check with that beautiful vision on that rook. That rook is gonna fall. So after you move your king, for example, I'm just gonna take that. Obviously you want to take the rook, and I'm just left with a bishop. I'm gonna win this game. So of course Mikhail sees this and plays the knight here, just supporting the square. There's some check coming in. I mean, you cannot prevent this, but it's not too bad. Now maybe double up the rook on that rank, but the pawns are falling. These pawns are gonna march. How are you gonna save this? Okay, I mean, this rook is coming in, and now, as I said, you just want to save one of these pawns because one of them are falling. So might rather just save this one, and because like these guys are gonna promote to a queen soon. But we have this. Now the king is going back where it belongs. Now you grab that pawn, and here, that was a mistake. One of the best move you can do is just go here, double up the rooks, and maybe play the bishop here and putting some pressure on that side of the board. Okay? So it's hard to see. Bobby, 15 years old, plays this. It's still a really human move. I mean, you just want to create this this kebab, as Hikaru would say. And maybe at some point you want to put the bishop here, and it's going to be really difficult to defend. Right now it says that white has a little edge, but in reality, I mean, these pawns are going. Pawns like this are really hard to defend. You're going to have to sacrifice a piece maybe if you don't have a clear attack on the king. So we have this preventing these rook to infiltrate, you know, picking up that square. Now you take that pawn, and these pawns are rolling, baby. But here the rook is back to defend it, prevent this promotion. But here we have an exchange of rook. You might say, well, that's a free rook. Yes and no, because if you take, I take like this. So that didn't happen. Instead, we have just a couple check. Same thing again. If you take, I take your rook, and you're going to hide. I'm going to bring the bishop and maybe put some pressure on that knight. So instead, they agreed to a draw. And that was the first game they ever played together. Thank you all for watching. As I said, my first video. I don't think anybody listened up to this point, but if you did, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. I know this video was really long to make. Maybe I could short this a little bit more. You tell me. You're the hero of this. You're the reason why I do this. So let me know.